coming on today. I'm Justin Schwinn and Darius Dupree. I'm human performance advisor for AppSoc, and Darius Dupree is strength and conditioning coach for AppSoc. We're here to kind of dive into different coaches and kind of hear their philosophy and hear their ability to create buy-in for their athletes from every aspect of every part of the strength and conditioning field. Today we have Daniel Williams. He is a KBR contractor with the DoD, and he works with the Navy. And we are going to kind of hear his take, and hopefully he doesn't fall. But hear his take on how he sees things in our setting, and what I'll say is, in this process, Coach, you can be as real as you want, and if there's anything we need to cut out in the process, we will. But
I meant to ask, can I curse?
You can cuss, and if there's certain parts of things you want to cuss and not include, we can pop those out too.
Okay.
But other than that, Daniel Williams in 2.5 minutes. Oh.
Yep, like you said, I'm Daniel Williams. I'm a KBR employee on DoD contract. I live here in San Diego, California. It's beautiful. It's my office right now. I love it. Nice outdoors, 70 degrees. I was formerly in the college setting, like most of the people that I work with in this community. Was fortunate to be able to coach at Florida State and then at the College of Charleston. And then I moved on from there into the profession I am now. Very blessed to feel good about kind of providing my service to the country in a way that I think that I can do. Former college athlete. That's where I met our host here, and he was my strength coach, and I was able and fortunate to be able to learn from him, and then take my career to where it is today, hopefully further than that.
Thanks, Coach. Real quick, first question I want to shoot at you. What motivates you in your current setting? How has it changed from when you first got into it? Kind of like I tell people, I was full of piss and vinegar when I first got into it. My motivation was to win all the shiny things. That's changed over time. And how has it changed? And then the second piece to that question, how do you motivate your staff? And how has that changed over time? If you have equals, you have people above you or below you, that you have to have that. You have to have the capability. And real quick example, one small thing I do every day, actually I can't do it right now, but when we get back into the office, I will walk up to everybody every day and I will either fist bump them, shake their hand, or shoulder tap them, just to show that presence. I think that's important. That's something I make sure I do with everybody that's in my 360 every day. I think it's important. There's nothing that comes out of my mouth using that process except for how you doing, or glad you're here, or glad to be working with you today. Those small things day to day make big impacts over time. So I'll leave it open to you.
Yeah, I mean, my motivation is just seeing progression. One of the things that I really enjoy is seeing, taking an individual or an athlete from, a certain point and then just seeing them grow, whether it be 4 years over college or just a career for the guys I work with now. Just seeing them, from day one, stepping in the door, and then, seeing as the time progresses, taking ownership of their own, more or less being stewards of their own development. And that's one thing that I really enjoy seeing. I mean, you can see people, just their sheer confidence level, go up both from on the field or in, and also just seeing like their bodies. I mean, there's some measurable things that we have out there. We have strength measures, we have other things, and just seeing when they hit PRs and everything, that's you almost live vicariously through that, and you can feel that's very visceral. So that motivates me to experience that and just kind of be a part of it. I would say that my motivation just as a career is, I really want to build something. I'm more or less low man right now. Now we are very autonomous where I'm at. We have a tremendous amount of freedom, which is really great. And so one thing that, as far as just kind of the way I interact with every day is I try and say yes to anything I'm asked to do. I'm not perfect. I have, of course, may shy away from some of the activities that I probably don't want to be a part of. But if I'm asked to do it, I'm always going to say yes. And I think that that's very important, because ultimately, if you say no even once or twice, all of a sudden you're not asked to do much anymore. And then you become disposable and then you're gone. So I try and be as much a part of an integral part, and, it can't be interchanged as much as I can. So that kind of, that mindset almost, is somewhat of a motivation for me to kind of deal with my day to day. I would say that my motivations haven't really changed, other than originally when I got into this, I think it was because I just really liked training myself. And so that has not, I would say that that's kind of matured over time. I don't spend as much time on me as much as I kind of used to. And I think that was a big motivation of, even 4 or 5 years ago, seeing how I could progress. And though, I was learning at the same time, I think it was kind of, it was a selfish endeavor more than it was about just truly other people. So that's kind of where I'm at now.
Thanks, Coach. Coach DeGree.
Yeah, Coach. So could you tell us? I'm curious to know your experience. We all were on the college side. What's been your experience with the personalities, and looking at the intrinsic and possibly even extrinsic, I guess you could say, rewards, or what the athletes you experience in the collegiate sector as compared to where you are now?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously, they take ownership here way more than I think our college athletes did. I think that there's probably some of the environment to do with that. Our guys are they're not asked, they are expected to take ownership. They aren't here because they were asked to be here. They weren't recruited into it necessarily. They have a love for it and they wanted to be here. And they knew what they were signing up for when they got here. The difference, obviously, is in the college setting, you never really know. You never really know which ones are going to stick it out. You hope that they'll take ownership, but a lot of it takes from the team. And it may come from us as well. Depends on the environment of the group, as far as like a sports setting. How much leadership is on the team, et cetera, et cetera. Leadership here is never in question. Leadership here is, number one, it's set. We know who the top brass is. We know who we answer. If you're an enlisted guy, who you're asked to. Who you're answering to. So that ownership and stuff comes from that. So you kind of know who to talk to, and that's a huge piece of it. That motivation. I mean, it's no secret that what you're doing is dangerous, and you could be killed just in training. So you take it very seriously, and I think that is a huge part of where any of this comes from. I mean, where that drive and that desire. You got into this knowing that it's not a secret. So that makes it really easy for us, because we don't have to pretend or make believe that it's really dangerous like we do in sport. We say it all the time. I remember being a sport coach all the time. You got to take this seriously. You got to be really serious about this. The fact is, it's still a game. It's still a game. This isn't a game anymore. We're not chasing a ball around the field. So, this is it. This is a big deal.
a cool quote I heard from Tom Mislinski. He said one time he talks on a platform working with soldiers. One time he saw it say, somewhere in the world, someone is trying to kill you.
Yeah.
So that's what you're working for.
Right.
And I thought that takes training the American military population to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter if you're a guy behind a computer or you're a guy kicking a door in. That means all of you. And I think that if you, as a coach, you really understand that with the athletes you're working with, you see the higher purpose.
Yeah.
And I think that's special. So next question for you, Coach. So in our current setting, soldiers we work with, it's voluntary. So it's almost like we have to recruit them. There has to be somewhat of a sales pitch behind it. So in that understanding, we're in this to obviously for the betterment of the soldier, but with that understanding, we have to find whimsical ways to bring them in. I was wondering if you had some insight into that.
I mean, yeah, of course. I want to work with as many people as I can. I guess the first thing that should be said is I don't really want to work with anybody who doesn't want to work with me back. I mean, I'll be happy to be friends with you, but if you don't want to be on a program because you feel comfortable with what you're doing, I think that just kind of laying that out there right off the bat. Just understanding that you're not going to be a resource for you in any way you want. You know, if it's straight up one-on-one programming, then that's what I want to do. But if it's just giving you guidance on, certain ways to do certain lifts and kind of what I'd stay away from or what I might add, so on and so forth, then that's what I am too. If I'm just the guy on the floor that you see every now and then and you just kind of have a chat and conversation, that's relationship building. I mean, eventually we may get to that place where you'll let me into that kind of that behind that iron curtain and I can work with you from a training standpoint. But if not, then, as long as you're in front of me, I'm going to try and help you out in any way I know how. Even if that's just being a guy. I would say that, we have a very motivated population. So honestly, getting them and making them want to train is not a hard thing to do. If anything, I think what we see more than not is pulling the reins, kind of pulling people back so that they're not beating themselves into the ground. I mean, the whole idea of all of this is so that we, create a more maintainable career so that there's not severe of a drop off after they, hit a certain age or so on. And then the longevity of the career. And then whenever they detach or when they leave, that they're still healthy whenever they get into whatever they do, after this job. So it's not necessarily this thing where I say that everything that we're doing in this program, everything that I'm doing is everything you need to do. I think it's incredibly important. And my piece of that, I think, is important as well, because each one of the pillars is going to, from a spiritual to nutrition, everything other standpoint within the program is going to build off of each other. We can all speak the same language. From the mental performance specialist, I mean, I can see the way she interacts with the guy and makes comments to him, and I can do the same thing, and I can gear my programs at least to communicate the way we all should communicate with as a program. So it's just one piece is kind of the way I would kind of go with it. Like, so bringing somebody in, trying to sell myself or whatever in this setting really isn't so much of a problem for me. It is voluntary, but the entire force is voluntary, and we have the best volunteers in the world. So that's really not the hardest part.
Coach, you're up.
Just on a different note, with all the technological advances that's going on within our field, what are some ways that you've been able to incorporate technology with training the population that you're with, and how do you, I guess, adapt your programming to what you're able to see?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the big one obviously is the one that I think we're all kind of familiar with, and just being able to work remotely. which is completely different from what I would have probably ever done even 5 years ago, especially when I started. Everything's on Excel and everything. You hand out sheets. If you can't hand out a sheet, then you weren't going to be able to communicate with a guy. And then it became, well, try and send it over email, and whether they got it or not. And God forbid we have hieroglyphics on all of our sheets. They all look, super different from each other. I don't know what that is versus what this guy calls that. So, having the remote training piece that they can all access from their phones has been huge for me. And it's something that we fell into. I don't think that originally I intended to be using, Train Heroic even, or, Bridge or any of those. I didn't really mean to do that. I more or less was just trying to look. Actually, we had a guy come in and present something to us. It was an app on his phone and had training on it. And I was like, this is kind of taking fire. Like, I see this happen a lot more and more. And so I went to them, the actual app company, and talked to them. And I was like, hey, is there a way that, we can get a foothold here? Can we put some programs on this thing? And he said, yes. And what ended up happening was it was a little bit more work than it probably should have been. And so then that's when we started to seek out the Train Hero Bridges and so on and so forth. And we picked one from there. And really, that's been huge, especially during right now, having to communicating. It has been huge. I spend a tremendous amount of time, but less time than I probably would have otherwise, being able to communicate with guys and constantly staying in touch. And as far as the actual technology and strength and conditioning, there's some good stuff out there. The velocity stuff, being able to use the Perch's Elite Forms, basically the gym wear, so on, stuff like that. Being able to use those is really good for a velocity-based training program. It's hard to take that with you, so a lot of times I err away. The time it's just percentage-based training, and just have to trust the numbers. What happens with stuff like that is, if it did catch fire, it absolutely took off like anything. We would use it, no doubt about it. Spent wearables, force plates, all that different stuff. If it absolutely just blew up and everybody wanted it, then we would do it. But as it is, what it kind of comes down to is a lot of it is just still feel, right? All of us, as far as the wearables and what that communicates to you and everything, you still have to just go off of how I feel. If I feel really good, then I'm going to train really hard. If I feel like crap, then I'm not going to train that hard, and what's that? How can we adapt that? Well, it's going to be sleep, it's going to be nutrition. There are going to be other aspects of kind of what's happening. So, I think more or less we use the technology as communication tools more than anything. You start a conversation. I would not say that we base training, or I base my training, I should say, off of what the technology is telling me. I'm kind of going off of, again, just person by person, what's happening, just communication.
Second part I really want to ask you, Coach, is your start of your career to now. We talked about the motivating factor. What have you seen trend-wise? Has anything changed? A lot of people will say, you never get away from the basics. But what have you seen change in the field for training athletes? And what have you seen the most efficient way to train athletes, in your opinion? What to not get away from? Obviously, ground-based, someone might say, they might see a certain type of equipment that's the thing. So you already talked about the technology standpoint. But as a whole, style of training, what have you seen the most effective?
Man, so big one right from the start of my career personally was CrossFit. That really has changed so much of, just what, and I can't even tell you, like some of these things that people never knew about are household names now, the snatch, the clean and jerk, stuff like that. That's something that was unheard of. No one even knew what Olympic lifts were, Olympic lifting shoes. I remember there were two companies, Adidas and Duin. That was pretty much it. And now, it's just taken off. And that's really changed this amount of just how I think training, especially in this population, is done, and kind of what is aired towards, how the training has evolved, what is seen as normal, and what you're gonna walk into, really any weight room, but especially a setting like this, what kind of weight room you walk into and what you're going to see. You're going to see more machines, probably less. So you're going to see more people doing, like you said, the core basic movements, squat, hinge, press, and pull. Yeah, you're absolutely going to see that now. Maybe versus even 10 years ago, whenever it was going to be a tremendous amount of just machines and the Kaiser machines and everything else that kind of went along. And then as far as me personally, from what I, kind of my programming is adapted over time. Of course, like you said, it's the base. But I probably would have tried to force every square peg into a round hole. And now more or less I just meet the guys where they're at. I want to see triple extension. I'd love to see them put weight over their head and achieve triple extension that way. But, it could very well be that we just do med ball throws or something, or plyometrics or stuff like that to be able to get that stimulus. If, it doesn't all have to be look the exact same. And even the variations themselves, if a guy can't pull from the floor, that's fine. Maybe we could pull from the hang. Can he get into that catch position? No, it probably can't get in that. Maybe he can't. Well, then let's just do the pulls. So just being able to adapt your training around guy versus, adapting the guy around your training. That's not how I'm going to do it. The other thing that I would say is I used to be dead set on, well, this is the way to train. Like, this is the progression. This is the periodization model, more or less. I know it works as long as it's a plan. Tremendous amount of athletes have seen tremendous gains and in different facets of training. So, it's cool to, it's kind of cool to have that realization that, one program is not the perfect program.
So, Coach, let me ask you, talking about adapting your program around your athletes, without having to get, too in depth, what things have you seen? Or I think more specifically what I want to ask is what do you use or what methods are you using, let's say where you have one of your athletes or group of your athletes, and it's a high stress day in training per se, how do you adapt your program there then as compared to, let's say they're coming back and, they may be, out of town or out of commission for a number of weeks, and you really need to work on increasing their lean muscle mass, getting them back to, where they left off. What do you do in those instances?
Well, yeah, as far as building a program or training, you really just have to trust the individual. I think that's a lot of what I do. I always communicate with them that, some of the stuff is superfluous. Sometimes I just put on guys so, if they're really feeling good that day, then they can hit it and they can go a lot extra. But, I communicate very, very plainly. Stuff can be minused. Let's hit. All you can do is just hit your bigs today. If we just hit the squats, if we just hit so on and so forth, then that's fine. You got everything out of you. I always communicate with them, especially to the ones that'll listen, that you have to realize that training is part of. You have to add it on. It's not weight room and then it's alone, always alone. Nothing else will affect the weight room. What I can do in the weight room is what I can do in the weight room. You have to understand that where your training environment is really going to affect that weight room. So how do you complement those two things? And training is static. That's not going to change. So what are we doing in the weight room to complement that? Ultimately, the training in the weight room should basically complement the training, if not be the reason you are training. So I'm trying to do my PT. I'm trying to do my weight room so that I can be better at training, my job specific training. Because nothing I do in the weight room is going to look like what in the job. So, that's part of that. And then, I mean, if they really feel good, then I usually put in like plus sets. That's kind of just an easy go-to, put in a plus set towards the end of the lift, or put in like some type of finisher that, on the floor, if they just really want to do it, 100 reps of something, 100 of something. It doesn't have to be anything really specific. It can be a single joint. It doesn't really matter, as long as it's just something. And then, like anytime those plus sets, they could be taken out. They don't have to do them. That's where that velocity-based training would be really, really cool to see how that could take fire with all this. But again, that we're not right there yet. But I think once if that can go, and it's been around forever, but if that can get a little bit more traction, I think that it'd be really cool to see, the adaptations behind that.
Who do you seek out now for knowledge in your current setting to help you with working with your athletes? What resources do you use outside of that? If it's material, kind of what do you dive into?
I mean, I really look into a lot of it comes from just talking to people on our staff. That's been really helpful. We got some knowledgeable people. And so a lot of times those, that'll kind of show me, hey, there's some more to learn. I've talked to some other people in the profession. One in particular, Cole put me onto the Aldoa. He had actually told me about years ago, and I said, listen, and then it was a couple of years ago that I really went and did the level 1 Aldoa, and been the biggest thing that I've added, which I very rarely add things, but I really found some really cool stuff with that. Anytime you see anything on water or from Kessler, then there's usually some pretty good weight behind it, so you can try to check that stuff out. And say, I kind of just take from more or less just peers. I'll be honest, I don't really look at a lot of publications. So more or less, I feel like most of what I gather is just from on the field.
So how do you feel your coaching style has changed over time, especially looking at the differences of the collegiate level and those kids, and then a lot of the type A personalities that we're dealing with within our realm? Have you felt like you've changed any, or, along those lines?
Yeah, I definitely feel like, in the college setting, you're really encouraged to be the hype man, to be the loudest one in the room. I never was comfortable with that, and certainly I'm more comfortable now because I don't have to be that. We're not asked to be that. You're going to look kind of funny in front of this group. If you're the hype man, if you're the guy that's running around like his hair's on fire, then I think it probably fits better with who I am. I'm kind of maybe quieter on the floor than most people would expect a strength coach to be. I kind of just take a no-nonsense approach, just look at the guys and say, hey, this is what we're doing. This is what we have today. Do we have any questions? Nope. Let's go. Like, that's just kind of – I feel like it fits really well. And then, if we got to, put some music on or something like that and to get the room up a bit, then I love that. Comfortable with that. Always have been, really. But, yeah, I mean, being that loud guy has never really been me. College setting had to do that a little bit more. I don't know why. I don't know when that happened. Because I feel like that's taking the emphasis off the athletes and putting it all on you, and maybe that's the point. But I never really understood why it happened. but here it's definitely different. Just kind of, you get to coach, you actually get to, you don't have to just run around the floor clapping your hands or anything. You actually get to, interact with the guys and coach technique and, praise them if they do well. And there's almost no, if any, reprimand of like, hey, we're acting up. So it's a little bit, it's definitely different. It's certainly different.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, maybe even the motivation piece. I really want to build something. I want to be able to parlay this position that I'm in, which is awesome, and I'm going to do everything I can in this setting to serve the way I want to feel is necessary for this community, especially. But I do want to take it, and I want to turn it into either a manager or a head type of position, head strength coach position. And then I want to build something, both figuratively and literally. I mean, I have a dream. I want to build, I don't care the budget. It can be small. I'd love to build a facility. I just think that's the coolest thing. And then be able to adapt that facility to more or less my kind of philosophy and training, and being able to put that towards a community of people, whether it be college again, it doesn't really matter. I'd love to stay here, in tactical, but ultimately, it's going to be a lot of, the family decision and stuff. So in 10 years, I would say that's definitely where I want to be. I want to be, a head position, a director position, whatever you want to deem it. And, building a program. If it's 10 years, hopefully it's already built. But, 5 years from now, building a program and really seeing, it kind of be, a symbol for good to be able to serve whatever community that is with.
Kind of, before I let Coach Dupree go, to piggyback that. So you want to build your own facility. What does that mean? Let's start off and give you something simple. 10,000 feet, square feet. Budget's really not a problem. I don't need to have a dissertation on it, but what do you want?
Well, the basics as far as the racks and stuff like that, we'd want to make the space to be as efficient as possible. So for my program, I would put, obviously I would kind of, as far as the money would be concerned, I'd spend a lot of money as far as just really getting the highest quality in barbells and plates, getting good stuff as far as the racks. So we know it's number one, safe and secure, but number two, we know that it's going to be there for years and years and years to come. There's not going to be rust, not going to be oxidation. I'd have a pretty adaptable flooring type of system, whether that be a play or mono, it doesn't really matter. But even if it's just horse mats, I don't care. But something, no platforms necessarily, but just an area where we can make it a warm-up area, we can make it a rollout area, we can make it whatever. We don't have to just be captive to the platforms. And then from there, if you're talking about like machines and stuff, I'm going to have the GHDs, which I don't really consider a machine, but we're going to have GHDs, reverse hypers, 4-way hip, and then pulley machines. I really like the plate loader pulley machines, either low or high row. It doesn't really matter. Try and have at least one or two of those. Of course, some type of belt squat, whether it be a rhino or a pit shark. And then, an assortment of types of barbells. Of course, we'd have the straight bars. We have the Olympic bars, probably HD bars, hybrid bars. But then, I'm going to have safety squat bars, or I'm going to have the Adapto bar or whatever, some Duffalo bars in there. The multi-grip, neutral grip bars. Try and just make it as I want to say adaptable again, but make it as fluid as an environment as we can, so it's not just strictly this, and this, so that we can get those adaptations, we can get those stimuluses, but maybe we need to change it up a little bit. Maybe we need to put you a trap bar, or maybe we need to, do some different things, pull you from the blocks. Like to have band attachments, like to have chains and bands, have to have accommodated resistance here and there. And then, and whatever it would look like, I'd put a VBT velocity-based device on every rack if I could. And just, again, it just sparks that communication. I'm like, what the hell is this? What is velocity-based training?
Coach DeCree.
Coach, let me ask you, the environment that we're in is relatively new to a lot of strength and conditioning coaches. Certain populations have been a part of, utilizing strength coaches for a good amount of time. What would be some advice that you would give to some strength coaches who may be interested, maybe transitioning from the collegiate environment to our environment?
Yeah, I would definitely, be really encouraged and enthused. It's, as far as the way we know these jobs can go, it's amazing. 40-hour works weeks, the government holidays off, weekends off, not having to travel with the teams. It's really a great gig for what kind of we thought we were getting into, I think, is originally the profession, where 40 hours is crazy. If you're working 40 hours, that's a half a week as far as the college setting is concerned. Having Thanksgiving off, what is that? That's being home during Christmas. That's crazy. So just being in that, and then working with a tremendously motivated population. That's really encouraging stuff. And so I would just tell them to be super enthusiastic and try and get in as much as you can. But there are those that love the grind, and I completely understand. There's just that every now and then the weirdest sense will come over you where you just kind of miss that grind a little bit. You miss that, being with the athletes and seeing them just day by day by day by day by day. And you just kind of become like your own family. The one thing about, these populations we work with now is you'll see a guy for about 2 weeks and then he just disappears. He's out during training, maybe deployed, who knows, it's really hard to get the true relationships you would get with that athletic setting. So, if that's really something you're truly, truly dead set into, then I completely understand. But as far as, some of my best friends do live here. I get to see some of my friends every day. I work with them. That's it's one of those things that, you get to see them and then, they're gone, and then you get to see them and then they're gone, and then they're back and then they're gone. They're back and they're gone. So it's just different. It's just different.
To piggyback off that, recent organizations such as the CSCA has not approved military strength and conditioning as an approved strength and conditioning coach. They say that they're not considered strength and conditioning coaches, which of course I will share my view, and I said that's a bunch of bull crap. They don't know. They're a bunch of old dogs. What do you have to say to that, and how do you inform them that they're wrong?
Yeah, I think ultimately as a strength and conditioning coach in any setting you're in, there is a performance that needs to be executed, whether that be from the football field or on the basketball floor or soccer, or the pitch, whatever. As a strength and conditioning coach in any position and job, your main objective is to increase the capabilities of that athlete in that setting. I'm not making weightlifters. Make no mistake about it. I don't program people to just be better weightlifters. I program them to be, better in whatever field that they need to be in. And so ultimately, it's not that dissimilar. I'm taking the same approach that I would with a college athlete. I'm looking at training the same as I would look at sport. As far as what are the biomechanics, bioenergetic demands of that thing, that objective, and how can I model my program to directly, if not as much as possible, mimic that activity.
Thanks, Coach. Next one I really want to ask you, thinking about, in any athletic setting, at some point in time, you're going to have guys come in that are not a part of your program. They're new to it, to be transfer. In the military setting, it's a PCS piece. If it's in the high school setting, it might move in. And they've done something a certain way. They're willing to buy in. They're willing to listen to your methods and what you do. How do you go about having them buy in? Obviously, we know relationships is a big part of it. If there's anything specifically you think you do might be unique, or might just say, hey, it's just foundational. But what do you do from the buy-in from the individual and also from the team component of it?
Well, I think that comes into just being informed as much as you can on everything that's happening out there. So if someone comes from Exos and really liked what Exos did, well, you need to know what Exos did. Whether it be go and visit Exos or talk to, have relationships with those people at any one of these performance places, or the guy really likes what Ben Bergeron does on Comp Train. Well, you need to know what Comp Train does. You need to know those things. You need to be kind of a connoisseur of anything and everything training, so that you could speak to that. It's not some foreign language to you, where, and if it is, of course you own it. You can't be fake, but just be informed. I had a guy come to me about blood flow restriction training. At the time, I had absolute zero knowledge of it. And I had to be very honest with him, because I have no idea what you're talking about. I have no idea. And then got into a little bit more and decided to go ahead and get certified in blood flow restriction training. And then therefore I can meet that guy where he's at. And though if he really wants to do some BFR, then that's great. I'll give him BFR. But then, also need to tell him, I did this cert. I own this now. I'm with you. I think this is cool, but I don't think this is everything. And here's why. And same thing with maybe an Exos. If, you have issues with that program, if it's something you don't really like or something, you just tell them, like, listen, I know the Exos model. I know exactly what they do. I'm certified. And you're like, listen, I love pieces of that. You were right, but let's kind of look at it. So just being informed in what they're bringing to you is very important, if not the most important, so that you can talk to them about, yes, if you believe they should change it, maybe you don't believe they should change it.
I guess last question I want to ask for the day, and kind of then turn it over to you. As you move forward, if you were going to go from this setting back to the college setting, is there anything that you've kind of cultivated and realized and understood? Now it's like the aha moment. I wish I would have done this while I was working with college athletes.
Yeah.
What is that and why in the college setting?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing and last thing I would do is just create situations where the athletes can take ownership of their own program. It is a special thing to have a completely empty weight room, if you will. No bars, no cones, no hurdles, mobility hurdles, no PVC pipe. None of that stuff is out. And tell whatever be the top brass of the team or whoever the team lead is, tell him what needs to get out, what needs to get done, and then watch them do it. And it's not foreign. I remember we had early outs for our baseball team. The coaches trusted those guys to go out to the field and get out the batting cages and everything else. Why can't we do that as strength coach? It's insane. I feel like I'm banging my head against a wall. I can't tell you how many hours I spent in the college setting, setting up everything for the athletes, going out there and setting up the station warm-ups for them. God forbid, because they can't get their own bands, or setting up the bags for football drills and fourth quarter drills and stuff. God forbid the guys get their own stuff out. And what you do is you steal that from them. You steal that respect from them that you don't think they can accomplish that. You don't trust them enough to be able to do this very, very simple task. Just having the guys do their own warm-ups. I mean, really when it comes down to it, why can't they? Why can't they do their own warm-ups? Yeah, if you want to have something special in there, you want to add some secret sauce in there that you have your own, then yeah, absolutely. But if you're putting your entire program on your warm up, and if you don't do the warm up right, then you're going to be screwed for your entire workout. And you're not probably doing the right workout in the first place. So, there's a lot of things that I think that can be done in the college setting. And maybe I'll eat crow one day. Maybe I'll go back and I'll try this and I'll get thrown in my face. And I'm telling you, I mean, it's really cool to see, people just own it, just take ownership and believe in what they're doing and what you've given them, and that they can police themselves. When you see a group police themselves, that takes some, I don't know, it's a special feeling, because then you can now do what you're actually there to do, which is coach. So that's kind of, and when people think coaching is just policing, I think that's wrong. I don't think that that's what any of us intended to do. I want to be, if you really want to police, then you need to go put on that badge and uniform. But if you want to be, I was once told that strength coaches are prison guards, and that's not only insulting, I think it's deadly wrong. I think that we are coaches, we are teachers. And whenever you just become some prison guard, then you need to choose a different profession.
So this back into the interview, kind of what I want to do, Coach, is kind of two-part, and it's up to you. One, today, we asked you a lot of questions. If there's any questions you want to ask us, feel free to. But also in this section, there's also things I think that you wanted to say and bring them to the table. I call them knowledge nuggets. If you wanted to impede any other knowledge nuggets or put out those knowledge nuggets for today, this is your platform. So please
cool.
do.
Yeah, I mentioned Eldoa. I took the cert in January, I believe is 18 or 19, doesn't really matter. It's 19, I think. Again, Eric Korn brought it to my attention. The Eldoa is actually a French acronym. In English, it'd be LOADS, which is longitudinal osteoarticular decoaptation stretching, or some people know it as myofascial stretching. Essentially, the illustration that could be used is if I had a piece of rope, let's just say that rope has a mind, and I were to take that piece of rope and physically stretch it. That's typically what we do every day. We take some type of apparatus, whether it be bands or ropes, and we try and stretch our own muscles. So I'm taking that rope and I'm pulling it apart, thinking of it as a muscle. Now, what if I told that rope to twist itself so that it created that decoapt or stretching on its own? That's what the Eldoa is. So essentially, you're using your own, physiology to essentially create space within the organism. So if you have, if you have a wall or you have even a buddy, a lot of these stretches can be accomplished on their own. And they're pretty cool. A lot of them all of them are, almost everything we do should be, but it's all core to extremity. So it's a lot of creating distance, especially in the spine. But there's localized stretching as well for whether it be hip flexor or hamstring, et cetera. But yeah, you create your own tension within your body, whether it be from, externally rotate here, internally rotate here, abduct here, induct, so on, adduct here, like everything. And it's really cool. And some of the testimonials are really neat. It's a really easy thing to add. It's a minute. It's a great post-exercise thing, and then pre-bed, especially when you're about to go into that weightless environment and be able to get some good rehydration in the spine. So I really enjoyed it. It is a really long day, couple days as a cert. So just understand that they're trying to sell you the next one. I got the level 1. That's all I need. I may do the level 2 one day, but there's level 1 and 2 together. I would encourage people to do that if they really want to. Don't do the level 2 on its own. It's kind of, maybe you'd love it. I don't know. But the level 1, I really enjoyed that. But it's 2 long days. It's 2 long days. And I'm pissed because I missed the Rams Saints game that year. Whenever the Saints got screwed out of a trip to the Super Bowl, the Rams guy hit him, obvious pass interference. Missed that game. because of the elbow assert.
Any other knowledge nuggets, Coach?
Oh, no, not much. I'm not that smart.
Well, wanted to thank you for today. Thank you for the opportunity to get you on and hear a little insight of what you do and hear your philosophy. I think it's important for coaches to have that access. I think it's, anybody and everybody tries to create their niche, and really when they hear people talk, they realize there's not a lot to it, but there's also avenues to kind of the end of the spear. You always can make the spear sharper, I believe. That's their education. To hear everybody kind of give their take, gives you the opportunity to say, not necessarily, hey, I'm going to learn from this guy, and this guy's the Bible, he's the Word, but it's more of this guy gives me an avenue where I need to go next. And I appreciate you providing that, Coach.
Sure, man.
Best of luck in this crazy time, and see you on the flip side.
Thank you, Darius. Thank you, Justin.
I appreciate it. Later, man.
Yeah.